what would you call it? I gave examples. I said we as Africans are more into the La tonal center. La ti do re mi fa sol la so fa mi re do ti la. That is the tone. La is our tonal center. While in the Western world, there's more of do as a tonal center. Do re mi fa sol la ti do ti la so fa mi re do. Their tonal center is a do. And I gave examples of the national anthem as songs that are based on the do tonal center. And I started talking about why are we looking for this music that seems to have been lost? Why are we looking for this music that seems to have been lost? We want to look for our own heritage. That is one of the reasons why we are looking for this music. We want to look for our own heritage, and we are arguing and saying we are not uncivilized in our African way, in our old African way. We are not uncivilized. We are civilized with that same music. Even when we are singing Mayo Mayo Bama Wagazumina Wupenga Wotwangolola, even when we are singing that, we are not uncivilized. That is a style of music that is extremely rich. I earlier mentioned that our rhythms that are very complex and our pitch sounds that are very complex are not voodoo, are not necessarily negatively voodoo influenced. God has made us in that way so that we deal with the complicated rhythms as Africans. Our music has what one man called John Mwesa calls a density reference. Density reference. Now, what is this density reference? I'll give an example of a song that I sang earlier some time back. Vanemwe vavusumino lange nyugololoke. Vanemwe vavusumino lange nyugololoke. Misango ya muchalo yedi. Mwila sangwamo. Now, when you listen to that song that I've just been singing, in the Western way, we will say the song is in 3/4. And it's making sense to be in 3/4. We are beating 3 beats in a bar. You can see that my hand is making a pattern of 3 movements. And that is the normal way of doing our music. Now, John Mwesa argues and says that that is supposed to be the heartbeat of the song, but he is feeling a different heartbeat inside of that 3/4. And the beat that he is feeling is double the speed of the one that we would normally describe the song by. John Mwesa's beat would be so you can feel it, it's going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but John Mwesa would rather have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, what does it help? When we are transcribing this kind of music, when I say transcribe, I'm talking about writing the music, scoring it on a paper. When we are writing this music, it is easy to look at the notes using the other beat that I gave you, the faster beat. The faster beat easily helps you to write down the musical notes. Someone in the Western world says, no, there are too many beats there. There are too many notes there, and this is an influence of evil spirits. Maybe my argument would be, how do we determine, first of all, that this is an evil spirit and this one is a good spirit or a positive spirit? How do we determine? I don't know. Maybe someone can give me an answer. But I believe that it's not easy to determine. The Bible itself says, test the spirit to know if this spirit is a bad spirit or if it is a good spirit. Now, here we are. It is our way of life. Then someone comes and tells you and me that no, what you are doing is evil. How did they determine that it is evil? To me, the only argument I can give is that the so-called Hallelujah chorus and all the other kinds of music that we get from the West has been diluted to the level where we can easily understand it. But the question comes back to you and me. What is art? What is performing art? Is it supposed to be easily understood? In my opinion, art is in this case, music, performing art is a creative art that has a deeper meaning than the simple music that we want to make it into. Let the music speak to us. The way the contours of the music go, the way the music flies up and down, the way the music moves in terms of time and duration, let it describe either an event or a way of life. I saw Mr. Kaloshi clapping up with me when I was doing Vandamba Butolo Vamugo wa Ibonse Vandia Moga. For those of you who understand Tonga, even if you have never done some pounding before, immediately you hear that kind of a song, you'll be able to feel that pounding spirit. And that pounding spirit is it's not necessarily a negative spirit. Tell me, maybe you can give me some reason why we have been told that our music is voodoo music. When you are singing, Bandamba Butolo Bamugowa, Yvonne Sebandia Moga. Bandamba Butolo Bamugowa, Yvonne Sebandia Moga. Bandamba Chimunya, Banyina, Bandamba Butolo, Bandamba Chimunya, Banyina Mwanawaye, Bandamba Mutolo. Is it because I'm singing a lot of syllables in a very short time that we are going to conclude that that music is voodoo possessed? No. For me, when I sing this music, I even feel closer to my God. Unless you are telling me that the closeness that I feel is not necessarily to Jehovah, but to something else. But I do believe that it is Jehovah. Jehovah has been introduced to me, and I want to worship him in the way he created me. He created me a Bemba, and he created me a Tonga. Are you telling me that it is wrong for me to sing in the Tonga way? No, I disagree. I believe that even as a Tonga, God has got music that I can sing. That music must not be influenced by other cultures. Mweban, why should my music be influenced by other cultures?
There were some point of views, Vaelda, I think when you dropped off. Thank you for coming back on. Muntanga, you had a question. Maybe you can throw it on the table and the elder can respond.
Yes. So anyway, elder, you left. I was looking at say, I don't know whether you know what is called like Malende in Zambia, in Tongaland, I mean.
Yes, that is the word I missed when I said Urwindi. In fact, when you are doing Urwindi cultural ceremony, you go Gumalende.
So now my question was, so we have Malende, we have Nkolola, which you mentioned like traditional, and then you said most of these songs which are derived from our traditions are from whether funerals or celebrations. So my question was, is it right or is it correct for us to take the same rhythm, change the words from what we sing in Malende and sing them in church?
Let me give you an example. I will start with the Western music itself. A mighty fortress is our God, a bulwark who never changes. You know that song, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know its origin? Do you know its origin?
No.
That song, we say it was composed by Martin Luther, the reformer. Martin Luther was in prison. Many of us remember that there was a time that he was put in prison. And as he was in prison, on the other side of the wall of prison, there was a group of people who were singing in a tavern using the same tune. So that song comes from a song that is traditional. And he opted to take those beautiful, wonderful words and put it on in that song. And we sing it in church. It's one of our hymns. That's number one. Number two, I am now going to give you an example of an African song. In Tonga, specifically, Mr. Muntanga, tell me if you are not going, if you have not enjoyed what I am going to sing. Moye gamwi ya gupaila, moye gamwi ya gupaila, ibuzuba bwagu ya ujulu muyo jala gamuli la bomba de mujala. Ai, ai, ai. Muyo jala gamuli la bomba de mujala. It is now a gospel song.
Which was sung in a tradition to say moye gamwi ya kulima.
Exactly.
Like
Midala gamulila bomba.
we have where we are gamulila bomba.
Yeah.
No, you are correct, Elder.
That is the reason why I'm arguing that African music must now take center stage. We need the whole world to understand our heritage. We need the whole world to understand our culture. We need the whole world to accept that our culture is not voodoo influenced. It's not. It's not. I will give you an example of a Jewish song. It's very rare that we sing Jewish music. I'm very negatively saying this. We have taken Christianity to become European. We are turning Christianity into a European religion.
Yes.
Right? Because its music is the only music, the music of the Europeans is the only music we want to accept in church. Why?
Mm.
Because it's the Europeans who were going around.
Oh, yes.
Yes. You were saying something, Mommy?
Yes, I'm just agreeing.
Yes. But now let me give you an example. Shalom, my friend, shalom, my friend, shalom, shalom. To Israel, shalom. That is a Jewish sound. That is a Jewish sound. But it's not common in the Christian setting. It's not common. Now, my argument is that Africa, we want your songs to come out in your religious worship. Why are we insisting that the music comes out? When I worship my God in my language and in my tribe, I am more at home through my language. I am more at home emotionally I am more at home in terms of mindset. Therefore, my spirituality is not artificial. It becomes very real. When you are forcing me, I've got nothing against singing, Jesus loves me, yes, I know. But I believe that that song comes from a culture where whoever it was who wrote that song, they relate with that kind of music culturally. I do not relate with that culture. You, who is African, does not relate with that culture. You relate with the moyega mwiya kupaila, moyega mwiya kupaila, ibuzuba wabuya kujulu muyo jala kamulila. That is what we relate to. And when I sing that, it comes from down deep. My emotions and the spirit of the music can be felt. But when I sing Jesus Loves Me, you will hear the spirit from me, an African. You will hear the spirit from the person whose culture that song comes from.
On that point, I think we've proved that as Levites, normally when we sing our Zambian songs, they normally come out
They're stronger.
stronger with feeling, and we feel it that, oh, this is our song. But it's interesting. Let me leave others to speak. Maybe I'll speak at the end.
Yeah, can we hear some comments? There's something very interesting I would like to tell you.
Okay, so before Damwesa tells us any comments, Sister Chonta, you had some thought. I think that time when we had a drop-off, do you want to share it? And Auntie Maureen was also sharing something. I'm surprised that the Herod's lover, Wakaloshi, has not had anything to share here. Because Shalom, my friends, is
No, I'll say
arrangement.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a secret.
Okay.
I love King Herod. My secret is that I love King Herod, but I also love my music. I also love my African music.
True.
Mrs. Chonta, you can start.
Inkama yakwale sateyo na papa. Ampindo wile ando fyano mwa kupikulwila abolo muntu amupanga kapitao wakubakebala na fyonse fyapangile. That is African. What's wrong with it? Where is the voodoo? We want to tell me where the voodoo is. That song derived, the one that Brother Carlos has just sang, is derived from a story song in Bemba. And now it has been turned into a gospel song. And this is it answers the question that Mr. Muntanga raised. If I go Gumalende or Naya Kumutomboko, Naya Mukusefya Pangwena, Naya Bulenye Mbosha Kusefya Pangwena, and I bring them and turn them into gospel songs. If I made a mistake, no, I have.
I think there's a problem with Mrs. Chonta. Mrs. Chonta, please, can you share your thoughts on that?
But that's not the example that I gave. What I gave was, you know, sometimes I grew up in an area where, you know, people used to dance to certain drums and they'll sing certain songs and then they'll evoke the evil spirits for somebody to start dancing and all that. So I was saying, take that scenario, that whole scenario, and then present that as fitting for God. I've got a problem with that. Which to me, when I hear to what the elder is explaining, that is different. Because I was before we stopped, I was trying, but my elder I think has covered it. You know, like when you are singing, when you are pounding. When you're pounding because you want to encourage each other so that you continue. and have a rhythm to do it.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
just doing that, that act of doing it, there's nothing evil about that. And if somebody took that and made it into gospel, I don't see anything wrong with that. But even as Christians, there are certain things that we used to do when we were not Christians. But once we learn the truth, we pick out what is in our culture, which is right, and use it for our own good. Because being a Christian does not change our identity. We still remain with our identity, but we pick what is right, what is carnal or what is not right, befitting with God. We cast it out. It's the same with music.
I love the way you have explained yourself. It's a very well thought out idea. It is a very well thought out idea, but do you know that in certain places people can debate what you've just explained? And I wanted to even give an example which can be based as an argument. Like I said, when our colleagues came, they told us that our music was voodoo music. 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 12, 13, 14, and 15. 2 Kings. I want you to take down this verse. You can read it later. 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 12, 13, 14, 15, I think all the way up to 16. I once mentioned this verse in a different context. Elisha refused to prophesy when there was the Israelites were about to have a war. He refused to prophesy, and he claimed God's spirit was not in him. He claimed God's spirit was not in him because of the bad behavior of a given king of Israel, whose name was Jehoshaphat. And the other king of Judah begged Elisha to prophesy. After much begging, Elisha agreed. But he said, the only way I can prophesy is unless God's spirit comes back. For God's spirit to come, I must have music. I can see that, Kaloshi, you were checking. Am I cheating about that verse?
Spot on. Spot on.
Yes. So Elisha insisted that there must be music. And the Bible claims, the Bible says that when a gentleman who knew how to play some music, some Jewish musical instrument, came and played it and sang, it reached a level where Elisha was caught by the Spirit. Why have I given this example? And when he was caught by the Spirit, by the way, he started prophesying. Now, why have I given this example? Bamayo Mam Chonta. Which spirit caught Elisha? Which is different from the spirit that catches you when drums are played?
Yeah. As if she has one that catches her in the first place.
Why is she saying the moment you hear some songs, even in the West changes the way it is dancing?
Okay, it is true that we do believe that most of our African drums evoke maybe evil spirits. I'm yet to prove that. But what I can tell you is that definitely music has a certain spiritual and even a physical influence on us when it comes. It does have. The question is that influence demonic or is it spiritual? What about King Saul? King Saul actually had demons. And they said, for you to get better. They said, go and bring David, the one who knows how to play music. And when he played music, the demons went away, isn't it? The demons went away when David played music with Saul. But how was it determined that yes, it's in the Bible, and that's the reason why we believe it. But now we want to look at our African music that is not documented the way David was documented. Can we prove also that that music has always been banned? Whenever we have someone displaying evil spirits, I'm going back to Auntie Chonta. Whenever someone is displaying evil spirits, you who has lived in Zambia, I'm sure you will agree with me that they bring those drums to chase away those evil spirits. Are you telling me that evil spirits will chase other evil spirits?
They call it kutuntule ngulu. I've seen that.
Exactly. Number, yangoma balelisha. Ngulu shifuma shani.
From the singing and
the beating of the drums.
Yes, there is a spiritual effect that has an influence on those so-called evil spirits. Are you telling me that another evil spirit can make another evil spirit run away? We need to do a bit more research on our music for us to determine what truly happens when those things are happening. I am not saying that those things are not evil. That's not my argument. But I believe there is something wrong there. I mean, sorry, there's something taking place there that is worth looking at. There's something that we must go in a bit deeper to find out what's really going on. Do you know why we say it's evil? Because someone told us that. Someone told us. Someone else told us that. I want to mention who it is. We all know who told us that means.
But my elder, that can be bounced back on you when you look at people who go to Isangomas in Nganga.
Exactly.
And they are being helped. Are you saying, I mean, isn't that an example of two things which are operating in a realm which is not Jesus? Yet
Can
you give me your argument properly?
Exactly.
What I want to do is I'll give you an example, then you give me that argument again. What about the doctor? Under whose influence is the doctor? The one you find in the hospital. The one who gives you a tablet to take so that you get better. Under what influence has he done that?
Yeah,
I
when
know.
I was a subject team.
When I go to a Sangoma who is the evoking spirit, yes, I'll be suspicious of him. But I am aware that there are Africans who just know helps.
Yes.
Are we also saying those are bad?
No.
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 The only, I think the only problem is on the Sangomas. You have to do something so that something is done. It's not just by knowledge where somebody say, oh, go and get a leaf from that eucalyptus tree. It's something maybe associated with other things. Oh, before you come here, put money there. When you do this, that's when this will happen. Then when this happens, that's when this will happen. But when you look at the normal way of, I remember my grandmother or my grandfather's mother, he knew a lot of roots from the bush. When somebody is suffering from any disease, we just go, follow me. Dig there, get that root, put in the pot, boil it, drink. After 2 days, you are better. But when you look at the Sangomas, Muchiwuko, things like that.
Wait. Can I say something though? But for me, I wanted to add something here though, because why I think these are different is because as we don't talk about the doctor or in regards to the whole thing, talking especially in the physical, right, pharmacology and all these different things. But when we're talking about spiritual matters, I think we're talking about a different avenue altogether. We cannot really put that place of a doctor in relation to someone who is possessed by things I don't think we can mix those two together, personally, for me.
I hear you, but Brian said something interesting. He said
Verify, what do you mean?
to a sarcoma for medication. That's why I asked that. But anyway, I can give you the answer properly. Like Brian said, no, you are coming back to me for me to be able to give you those answers. I'll give you two examples. King Saul went and looked for the spirit of Samuel. That is wrong. And that's why God got angry. You remember that story? You remember that story? King Saul wanted to get insight over some issues. He went to look for the spirit of Samuel when Samuel had actually died. And God was not happy about it. Yes. And in my opinion, that is similar to the Sangomas. That could be my argument. Then there was King Hezekiah, who had a sickness, and I think it was some kind of a boil that had bothered him for a very long time. You remember Prophet Isaiah. Prophet Isaiah came to him and said, "Oh, you are dying." And he said, "Please, can you beg to God on my behalf?" What did Isaiah do to heal that wound? Do we remember?
We need to read more.
Isaiah picked on some leaves and put those leaves on that wound. And several days later, it disappeared. In some way, when we are dealing with herbs, like we had my grandfather Baba Kaloshi did, yes, we will say, yes, he was dealing with herbs. I have a small little argument with these doctors. I have very strong things by people who are saying that they use, what do they call it? Is it enzymes or what? I'm told that most of our tablets have some chemical that is taken from, is it babies or whatever it is? I think some people have heard about such things. So our conventional medicine, equally, I have a problem with it. And it's often the herbs that we get from Africa and elsewhere, they work for us. But where have you heard in the world the Europeans are agreeing that these things work? They've always subjected them to the lab. And even when they work, they've told us that they don't work. And do you know the reason why they tell us that they don't work? Because we are going to discard Western medication and start on. So even in music, that is my argument. Their music must become popular so that, I'm sorry that I'm saying all this, when we are dealing with Christianity, that brings us together. Somewhere along inside there's a very thin line where certain people want to make it, take advantage of this good Christianity to further their own causes. Music, by telling us that our music is bad. When the truth of the matter is that our music is equally very, very beautiful. I have always promised that eventually I will start bringing recordings. I've started gathering those recordings and putting them together. Like what I showed you, Karoshi, the other day. Those were Catholics singing a Catholic song in a tonal center that is on La. And that music still sounded very, very good. But that is the music that we are arguing about as African Christians. We are saying, no, it does not belong to us. Is it really true that that music does not belong to us?
No.
No.
Okay.
Tukayakula kumulu ukokwale saye kalubula wende shokubwela niwente menwe neshi wilio velya chilapa ngomba kalubula wende shokubwela niwente menwe neshi wilio velya chilapa ngomba vakaloshinga na mie vativike nimo oto tena na besu ulurwimbo tetu luwame
Oversize. Now, Mr. Mwesa, Yeah, maybe from my experience, when I hear a song like that, to me, being a Zambian, I could tell this
Our
song
Catholic.
where it comes from. It comes from maybe Luapula, Northern Province, because even when there is what they call Ichimbo Chamalilo, those songs which are sung there, they are normally they are minor chords in the songs. But looking at maybe the other parts of Zambia, especially northwestern, I think as we are just like the Europeans, most of the songs is door to door. Although there are some songs which there's one song which brought a problem at my church one time. The City Prophet, they got it, I think, from the Catholic. Katula echipe chayanguka.
Yeah.
That song, I loved it. But I remember one quartet sang it in our church, and then one of the elders just stood up and told them to shut up. Because the song, it was contradicting our doctrine. Then.
Where does it contradict the doctrine? You know what? There are these funny arguments that we bring about when we don't want certain things to come into the church. Certain things that are just okay. There's
Okay,
always
the statement which brought a bit of debate was
Okay, now let me give you the synopsis of this song. This song is not Catholic per se. This song came from Alex Chola. Those of you who remember Alex Chola, the one who sang Mayo Maria Mayo Wadelosha. You remember him?
Yeah.
That blind man from Luapula. That man is the one who sang that song. Now, there are certain messages that sound contradictory. There is a land of corn and wine. That's what I'm saying. Jesus made wine. You take wine. You claim wine is it gets you drunk. That's what you claim. So when we say wine and milk and whatever it is and honey and all those things, we are speaking poetically. These are what do you call them? We are speaking poetically to try and drive out a message. And whatever it is, we are just speaking, is it metaphorically? To explain that eventually we are going to go to heaven. Those messages in these songs are not literal. They are not literal. And that's what makes music beautiful. For me to sing, there is a land of corn and wine, oh, Beulah land, sweet Beulah land. There are a lot of English songs that we sing that have wrong meanings if you take them literally. Am I cheating? Yes. But when we sing in African music, then you say it's wrong. There was a music director in one of our districts about 3 or 4 years ago. I was just watching from afar. Chalo chamaluba luba eko tbaya. Chalo chamaluba maluba eko baya. You've heard that song before, right? He said, stop singing that song in the churches because they go to hard song. He gave his argument. When you listen to these songs and make the messages literal, then you have a problem. 90% of the Bible is written metaphorically. Most of the things that are written in the Bible are not direct messages. That's why we feel and hear and feel the Bible at our own point of view. Brian, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son will not touch you the way it touches me. It will touch you differently. Why? Because it is metaphorically spoken. While it may be literal, but the way the words are put together makes it metaphorical. Why did God ask Cain, where is your brother? When he knew what was going on. God wanted to give some kind of an illustration to the rest of us. God didn't have to ask that question. He knew what had happened. Why did God ask Adam, where are you? Are you telling me God didn't know where Adam was?
And then Adam answered wrongly. Mr. Mwemba has got a hand up. I don't know, before he forgets his point.
Yes, so I had a point. I had something to say about what my director said about the doctrine and the music. And I was just thinking of us, the Levites. We sing a song, which I thought is a good song to bring up. Saved ones in glory are waiting for me, just inside the gate. Now, what that song is assuming is that people that have died are waiting for us. They're in heaven, waiting for us inside the gates, if you sing it literal. So that's the point I was trying to bring. So that's a very good point about.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mwemba. The point you've given us, it's true. Most of these songs are not literal. When we say saved ones in glory are waiting for me, because we wish to be in that kind of, it's just a message per se that is, it's a positive message, but it's not literal. It's the same with that song. It's unfortunate that some of our elders who believe that they've learned a lot can stop us in such music. I remember attending a wedding ceremony at one of our churches in Lusaka. I don't want to mention the church. At one of our churches, one of our Adventist churches, the head deacon came and said, Imwe, you have come from such and such a church, and I know that you are mixed choir members, and you people sing some things that are controversial. We want you, before the wedding starts, to perform right now the songs you're going to come and sing in church, so that we know that you are singing the right thing. Now, my first argument is, how can a deacon determine that this is the correct music? Because the deacon is not a specialized musician. That's my first argument. Then now, we sang Rebecca's song. And they said, no, Rebecca is not Adventist, so you cannot sing this song in the church. Then I asked, what about Fanny J. Crosby, the one who wrote some of the hymns in our church? Is she Adventist? I asked that question. But you know, because of that ignorance that Deacon portrayed, I opted that we don't sing some of those songs. Why? Because I thought that while others will be saved, others will be dying, because they'll be thinking that what we're doing is the wrong thing. Now, the Bible does teach us that we need to do things that will bring people closer to Christ. While that song may not be pushing people away from Christ, it is just one or two, three individuals who, just because the source of the song is Pentecostal, then they say it is wrong. Jesus himself mentioned, I've got sheep out there who are not in this crowd, who when I call, they will hear and know my voice, and they will come in. Brethren, you Adventists, be very careful with some of the debates that you bring about in your church. One of these fine days, you'll find that your church has been taken over by the sheep that are coming from outside, and you will be thrown outside the crop. My advice to you is that let us accept the things that are good. Our culture is good, and our music is a good example of our culture. Let's
Now,
accept our music.
there's one thought, Elder.
Let our music influence the rest of the world. Let them love it the way we love it, and the way we love What a Friend We Have in Jesus and all the other songs. Are you telling me that when the Indians are singing when the Indians are singing in their scales, that is wrong? Indians, are those wrong? Is it wrong before God? Can you hear What a Friend We Have in Jesus? No, I agree.
No, one thought, Elder. So there's a hand by the Chontas. Before I put it to them, I just wanted to reflect on one of the things you mentioned. And I mean, it's true. So we have to be strong in the faith. But the point I wanted to bring was, you mentioned that you would go for Kuomboka ceremony or Mutomboko or whichever ceremony, you listen to a song and you could take it to use it to worship your God. Isn't it true to say the Bible says there's a time for everything? Yes? And in Ecclesiastes, we see where we are told of a time to get born, a time to die, and different seasons in life.
Fun, the time to worship.
Yes. So isn't there music which is specific for worship and music which is for other things, and these things cannot be mixed? I'm not saying African music is bad. I'm talking of in terms of the type of music. So even in the Western world, you won't hear a Michael Jackson song or tune brought in the church just because somebody enjoyed it. What would you say about that? I'm just trying to connect it with the point you made earlier. After you respond, then the Chontas can ask.
Maybe just to add on what my chair was saying there. Now, are you restricting the creativity of musical or directors in Zambia who can come up with tunes which can have an idea of what you want to depict from certain cultures, but you can come up with your own tune to suit your taste? Are you depriving us from having that experience? Because if I get a song like a traditional song which is associated, when that tune comes out, already people who have listened to that ceremony, their minds will go straight to the occasion or the insertion ceremony or insertion whatever, what happened. The mind will go there straight away. Like, for example, if I get a song like maybe from the Eastern world or Western people about sexual healing, we know that tune is a very strong tune. And then you get that song like that one, and then you just change the words, you put Jesus there. But to people who listened to it, when that beat comes on, the first thing which is coming in their minds is sexual healing. I don't know what comment you can say on that.
There's a fine line. There's a fine line there, and we must be able to see the fine line. I gave you an example of the song by Martin Luther. I said it came from a tavern where it was being sung as a traditional song. Those who were there, when they started hearing Martin Luther sing, were giving the same arguments that they were giving. I'm not saying that we should pick sexual healing. I would like some songs have got a very strong connotation towards certain activities, just like sexual healing. If you know your history well, sexual healing is what led the writer of the song to the grave by his father. By his father, who was a reverend. The father felt the song was offensive. And it's true, it's offensive. That song is quite offensive in its message for a Christian. And we are told that the father ended up shooting the son on his birthday over an argument over the same song. Now, here is my other answer to Brian. I'll ask you a question with an answer. That's why I've said there's a fine line. The same guitar that we use in church, the same guitar we use to play rock and roll and the Michael Jackson songs. The same guitar. But you are now going to tell me that the keyboard is okay, which we used to play Michael Jackson songs, and you tell me that the cylinder is bad because I use it in the Kuomboka ceremony. Have I answered the question in a way?
So, as you said, there's a fine line. And we know that music instruments, when used skillfully for the right purpose,
that's the skill. That's the answer. It's the skill.
Yeah, but I guess my thought was more of when you look at the traditional ceremonies, they are going to appease spirits. Sometimes they take food and they're playing different kinds of songs. And to just pull that song, maybe you change the words, is where it might be interesting. For those who are in that culture, they will just be thinking about that ceremony and not necessarily the worship you would have put in the words. I don't know.
I hear you. I hear you very much. When I sang Moyega Mwiya Gupaila, Wakaloshi Bachita enjoy son. The one who recognized the song was Muntang. But Wakaroshi was enjoying. I saw him pounding. Even Mama Chonta, I saw her pound. And she enjoyed it. Right. So there are, we may evoke that. We may evoke the negative. If I today start wearing a bubu at church and preaching in the book, you will, the first 3 or 4 weeks, you will argue and say, but is it wrong to wear the bubu? No, it's not.
Without a suit, Viola.
But is it true that is making me spiritual? Yes.
It just makes you look smarter. That's all.
What if
it doesn't make you spiritual?
What if I'm wearing a nice Kitenge shirt?
Hey, just be casually smart.
Yes, and I can still stand on the same. I can still stand on the pulpit and preach, isn't it?
Yes.
But now, because of the tradition that you brought and the culture that you've introduced in my African church, Kitenge shirt is wrong. Someone somewhere says the Kitenge shirt is wrong.
The director is laughing. He's got a point of view. No, the Chontas have their hand raised for a while. Let's give them a chance.
Maybe let them make comments.
I think no, it's me. Where I think but director touched the point which I wanted to ask. Say, I think for us, maybe who are in the diaspora, we may receive this your message very well because we have understood the dynamics of music and we have appreciated this. But how is the church or the union or the conference in Zambia responding to such suggestions, which was why I said, but director touched on to say, if a director, if you are promoting such kind of music, do you face resistance from the authority that maybe this will bring confusion or let the tradition that has been there continue rather than introducing things that will bring a bit of debate
and division?
What the authorities agree to or do not agree to. Right now, at the crossroads at which our church is, I think that is not as important as it should have been. I will tell you now that the resistance is from individuals, influential individuals, not the church. I'll give you an example. If you Google on internet, Seventh-day Adventist music, you will find a paper about 6 or 7 pages. You will find a paper that has been documented by the General Conference Music Department. It says the philosophy on music in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And every time we have a general conference, that paper is updated. A new edition comes that has additions to it.
What's that like?
And the general conference is encouraging you and me to develop music in our cultural context. It is. But it is my elders in my church and myself who would rather have neckties and suits as we sing, or would rather have music that is dressed in suits. Can you get you understand me there? We would rather have music that is dressed in suits. Then we will say it is Christian. Now, here is my other bigger argument. Christianity is not Western. It's not. That one, someone has to convince me. And as it is in the present state in our churches, it has been portrayed to us in a Western manner. It has been portrayed to us in a Western manner. But the truth is that Christianity is not Western. I think I said it on this platform some time back that Christianity is Jewish. It has Jewish connotations in it. And if we want to be true Christians, let us go to being Africans and interpret those things in the Bible from an African eye.
Interesting points of views, Viola. I've seen a hand by Sister Maureen. I don't know if she's got a question. And I take note that it's 20 past 7 UK time, and I know it's getting late for you as well. So yes, maybe
it's time for supper. I've seen
we can conclude in the next few minutes so that by past we close, and anything else is moved to next Saturday. Sister Maureen.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I just want to pick on the point when we were doing a reference to the Tonga song. The one you sang in Tonga, and Mr. Kaloshi was pounding, and as a sign of enjoyment, while Muntanga was responding from the spiritual point of view. So my question is, in music, what is more important? Is it the enjoyment? Because we see the Pentecostals when they are singing and dancing and celebrating, it's all about enjoyment. And as from the Seventh-day Adventists, we focus more, we want to be more spiritual. So that is why we have these reservations in the way we respond to music. What is your take on that one?
I'll give you a testimony. The same song. The first day we sang in church, someone mentioned the word that Muntanga mentioned. That song is from Ugumalende. That's what a certain lady said in my church. And she said, you are losing the church. You are making people to get lost. Because many people who were not Tonga in the church enjoyed the music. They felt some Africanism in the song.
Yeah, but nona on internet.
Okay, not sure if we've lost Brother Mwesa.
Yeah, I think he's interruption of internet, maybe.
So I will say goodbye to those who are watching on the live stream. It will be continued, and then we'll just try and close up. And if there are any questions, they can be picked up next week. The only comment I saw online was from Sister Eve saying, "This is your grandma." So there's no question online as far as I can see. So that's fine.
That's
so I will just open the floor for some thoughts. It was good. It's unfortunate he's dropped off. We can't even say our thanks. Hopefully.